living longer, living healthier, living better than ever before. Welcome to Mountain Pacific's Healthy Living for Life, a weekly series that gives you the information, education, and expert insight you need to become an active participant in today's ever-changing healthcare climate. Here now is today's program host.
As our loved ones age, sometimes the best way to help them stay healthy is to find someone to assist with their care. Today, we will be exploring what this process looks like. Welcome to Healthy Living for Life, a show dedicated to helping you do just that. I'm your host, Lisa Sather. Today, we'll talk about finding a caregiver and what you should know before getting started. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This morning, we're talking with LaDawn Whiteside, an AARP volunteer, and Deb McNally with the Area Agency on Aging. Thank you for joining us today, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
So, Debbie, let's start out with you. Could you tell us about what the Area 4 Agency on Aging is and your role with them?
Yes, the Area 4 Agency on Aging is a part of Rocky Mountain Development Council, and Rocky Mountain Development Council is a community action agency. It's a part of a network that is it's a nonprofit organization. And really, they were created to fight poverty and fight the war on poverty. And so we have programs like heating assistance, Head Start, senior services, all under this great umbrella. The Area Agency on Aging is one of many, we're part of an aging services network. And this is also nationwide. So the Aging Services Network is a great organization. It's tied to the Older Americans Act. And so we have several services under our agency. We provide funding as well as direct services. So some of our programs we fund include senior centers, the congregate meals and the Meals on Wheels going out of that agency, homemaking services, respite services, and transportation. So our direct services at Area 4 Agency on Aging includes Medicare counseling and our Aging Services Helpline. We receive those calls and under a program called Information Assistance and Referral. We have the Ombudsman program and several more.
Okay.
So my role is Outreach and Education Coordinator, and part of why I'm here today and what I'm doing. And I spent several years as a SHIP and INA counselor answering phone calls from the hotline about the topic that we're here to talk about today, finding caregivers.
Wonderful.
And so it's great.
Great. Anxious to hear more about that. Thank you. So, LaDawn, you volunteer with AARP.
Yes.
And I'd like to hear a little bit more about your background and what your role as a volunteer is.
Well, like Debbie, I have done quite a few things that lead me to being an AARP volunteer and with you today. And one of those things that I did was working for the Regulatory Authority for Healthcare Facilities for a long time. And part of my role there was that I was the complaint and abuse coordinator. And so I heard a lot of things from people about not only facilities, but staffing issues and caregiver issues and things like that. And then I worked for the waiver program with the Community Services Bureau for a couple of years and learned more about what people need and want when they're living in their own homes and looking for caregivers. So when I retired from the state of Montana, I decided I wanted to open a mediation business. And part of what I do there is to work with people who are trying to resolve problems. So when I became a part of the AARP organization, they had this program called Prepare to Care. And so I volunteered to provide this Prepare to Care curriculum when people want to. And part of the curriculum covers creating a plan for caregivers in your own home.
Awesome. Well, let's get right into that. So we're going to talk about, finding a caregiver today, and why might someone decide to hire a caregiver for a loved one?
That's great questions to start with. And just to relieve the burden of the primary caregiver, relieve isolation, so more companionship.
Yes.
So those are great things. And part of our mission of Area 4 is to help people in their home and provide those home supports so they can remain independent in the community and have a great quality of life.
Great. So if someone decides they want to hire a caregiver, where should they start?
So I would start by asking questions and consider the type of caregiver you need. Full-time, part-time, do you need a live-in? Is it just companionship or friendly visitor or well-check calls? So there's a variety of caregivers out there. Do you need a home care aide, home health aide, or a little bit more medical, a certified nursing assistant or an RN? So really starting there will help you, once you get those few questions asked, that will get you pointed in the right direction.
And I think some of the things like Debbie had said, deciding what you need and then going out and finding it, essentially. Because a lot of caregivers, they do as much as they can, and they really work hard and they feel really committed because it's their loved one that they're taking care of. So when they realize that they need some help, part of it is to take care of their loved one, and part of it is to take care of themselves as a caregiver. So reaching out and saying in your head and verbalizing that to people about, I need help with this thing at this time of day or this time of week. I can do everything but this thing I need help with, and being specific in what you need, and then finding that either professional caregiver or friend and family that can help you with caregiving is really important.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to take a short break here for just a couple minutes, ladies, and then we'll be right back to get into a little bit more information. Stay tuned. Welcome back. LaDawn Whiteside and Debbie McNally are here with us to continue our discussion on finding a caregiver. Welcome back, ladies. Debbie, let's start out with you. Let's start talking a little bit more about specifics on finding specific types of caregivers. And can you talk to us a little bit about companion caregivers, a little bit more detail?
So companion caregivers or personal care assistants, they really help in the home to do light housekeeping, preparing meals, and sometimes they assist with a little bit of personal care, washing, bathing, but really that helps with the little things, non-medical. And then that companionship too, maybe helping with medications, picking them up at the pharmacy, and maybe some errands or shopping.
Okay. So. LaDawn, do you want to talk to us about if somebody needs a caregiver with a little bit more training?
A lot of caregivers have no experience in caregiving, or they have some experience, but they have had no formal training. And there is a program called Powerful Tools for Caregivers, and that is through MSU Extension Office, but you can find out about how to participate or attend the Powerful Tools for Caregivers by calling the Extension Agency or an ombudsman in your area, a long-term care ombudsman in your area, and that provides the layperson some information so that they have more tools, more resources, and training to provide the care that's necessary. Usually a certified nurse's aide or a nurse or a medication assistant, a professional or licensed certified person has a lot of information, so they come to the job with a lot of information to help take care of the person. But people who have never been caregivers or really had no training, the Powerful Tools for Caregivers is really a wonderful opportunity. And also, again, I'm going to refer to the Prepare to Care book, because it kind of leads a person down the path of how to find somebody that you need, whether it's in-home, whether it's a family member, or whether it's somebody through a blog, a caregiving blog, or a church organization affiliation, something like that. There are a lot of caregiver programs that you can access.
Excellent. Sounds like a lot of great resources. Thank you. And if someone needs somebody with a little bit more medical expertise, how would you go about that?
So you would look towards an RN, registered nurse, maybe some more advanced care, maybe if they have cancer or some of those more higher medical specialized needs. So I would start with the RN. I also wanted to say that it's important that you know, all these different helpers or caregivers we can hire have different training requirements, and that may vary by state by state. So, you know, while we're talking to them about a little here, it's important to really ask the questions and find out their qualifications and what they can and cannot do when hiring.
That's excellent. Leads right into my next question. What kind of questions should we be asking when we're thinking about interviewing a caregiver? Can we have some tips on that? I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think asking for their qualifications or references, making sure to do an interview with them is important too. If you're hiring privately, making sure to do a background check. There's a registry at the state level for CNAs where you can call and see where they're at with their requirements as a consumer. So it's great to look at those. It's important to get a great match, so personality-wise, making sure that your loved one clicks with the caregiver is important too.
I would just like to add that when you're hiring a caregiver, it's very similar to hiring a person in an employment situation. That's really what you're doing. If you're hiring a paid or you're asking somebody to volunteer in your home, you want to do the same kind of review that you would do if the person was working for you, because that's really what they're doing. So double checking options that are available, free options that are available, the reference checks, the nurse aid registry program through the Quality Assurance Division, checking with those references. Just don't accept the letters, contact those people. Be really comfortable with the person that you're bringing into your home because they have access to everything. So making sure that your loved one and your home is safe from whoever you bring in is really important. And again, AARP has a lot of resources that have to do with fraud prevention and elder exploitation. So prepare yourself with information. Don't just bring a person in that you've never met before and expect them to know how to do things. Stand beside them, watch, supervise the care that they're providing for a while, and make sure that they're doing it in accordance with your desires and your information.
Very, very good
advice. I do have to say too, when hiring with an agency, say that you're going through a larger agency or smaller agency, when choosing that agency, I would suggest you ask if the same aide would be coming on a regular basis. Some people want the same person. Caregiving is so intimate. So
great.
Making that match is important.
Absolutely.
Because the caregiver essentially becomes a part of your family.
Yes.
They're there a lot, typically, and as time goes on, they're spending more and more time.
Very good. And I would imagine it's really important to set your expectations out in advance so that everybody is on the same page and knows what to expect. Excellent. Well, thank you, ladies. We're going to take a short break here, and we're going to come back and finish up here in just a couple minutes. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If your family is considering finding a caregiver for your loved one, you're not alone. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, over 5 million Americans receive support from care services such as home health agencies, adult daycare service centers, and residential care communities. LaDawn Whiteside and Debbie McNally are still with us to discuss the ins and outs of finding the right caregiver and how to pay for that care. Welcome back, ladies. So before we get into the cost of hiring a caregiver, which I'm really interested to talk about, can we talk a little bit more about finding the right person for your loved one, and what happens if the person you found doesn't actually click with your loved one? What do you do?
It's difficult, I think, to make friends in that capacity. So you're going to have people that come in as caregivers that may or may not click with your particular family or your loved one or yourself, whatever that is. So you have to make a decision about, is it better to keep that person and provide some extra training to make the match fit, or is it better to hire another individual, go through the same process again? And a little bit of that depends on your own feelings about that caregiver, but part of that needs to come from the person they're taking care of, so your loved one. Are they comfortable with that individual? If they're not, then start exploring the process of hiring an additional or a new person. And you'll have to decide what the risk is. Do you want to phase that person out slowly over time and adding a new person in? Or do you just want to terminate the caregiving at that very moment in time? So don't believe that one caregiver will stay with you forever. You have to be prepared to introduce more and more people into the caregiving.
Makes sense. One size doesn't fit all always, right? So let's talk about elder abuse real quickly. We need to hit on that. So can you tell us if that's a risk and concern?
Yes, that can be. I think with any caregiver, abuse can happen, whether it's burnout or verbal abuse. And so it can happen with any caregiver. So it's good to keep an eye on things. Look for bruising under clothing, stay connected, visit with the one who's being cared for. LaDawn, do you have?
Well, unfortunately, the statistics demonstrate that more abuse happens in the home than it does in institutional settings or places that you might take someone. We have this hesitation or this worry that abuse is happening in healthcare facilities, which it does happen, but the truth of the matter is, based on the law enforcement statistics, there is more abuse committed in the home setting than anywhere else. And part of that has to do with less supervision. If you're living in a nursing home, there's a lot of people around. There's lots of people watching each other. When you're in the home setting, there's not a lot of supervision. So you want to make sure that the person that you hire is going to be taking care of your person the way you want them to. So I guess the important thing, as Deb said, is to look for signs, do extra supervision, make sure that you have used the due diligence resources that are available to you, and don't hesitate to report and ask questions. If you suspect or concerned or you're not clicking with that caregiver and you're starting to worry, be sure to report.
Okay. Cost, what are we talking about roughly in terms of cost?
For cost, it's approximately $125 a day for full care, and it may be less if it's part-time. So that can really add up over time.
Any financial options for folks to get help paying for in-home care?
Yeah, there are several options out there. Medicare, you'd want to look and see if your loved one qualifies for Medicare home health, and you would just go to medicare.gov for that.
Okay.
If they have an Advantage plan, which is not original Medicare, you could check with your agent or call 1-800-MEDICARE to find that out.
Okay.
So Medicaid, which is the state level assistance, has several options. And I really feel like people should explore Medicaid because you never know what services you might qualify for. There's Medicaid home and community-based services that help folks stay in their home and provides long-term care assistance. There is PCA services, personal care assistance. There's a self-direct program where you can hire your own caregiver and be the boss and trainer. And then another agency is just the bank. They're the fiscal folks. So there's a lot of options out there. And then you could also look at, go to eldacare.gov to look at, for some resources. You can look at a benefits checkup, which will tell you what it's a national program and a great screening tool that will let you know what your loved one is eligible for and even offset some costs.
Excellent.
So it's a great program. A reverse mortgage could also be an option for folks.
Okay.
So
Good options then.
keep your options open.
Just have a few, in a few sentences before we get close to time being out, but I want to know some other options real quickly for folks if they wouldn't qualify for one of those. Are there other resources out there?
So I would suggest to call the Area 4 Agency on Aging or your senior center, because they really know all these resources and can walk you through it. There are many online tools like the ADRC website, an online resource, and a lot of the Area Agency on Agings have senior resource guides.
Okay.
So sometimes your local Area 4 Agency on or our agency, the Area 4 Agency on Aging, has resources that maybe are not on the larger online resources.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. Our time has gone by very quickly today. I want to thank you for all of the great information that both of you have provided, and I know we'll have a bunch of this listed, on the screen so people can access. So thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for joining us as well today. We hope we'll see you again next week. Until then, stay fit, stay well, and stay healthy for life with Healthy Living for Life.
Healthy Living for Life is brought to you by Mountain Pacific Quality Health. We'd love to hear from you. If you have suggestions for future programs, visit our website at mpqhf.org or call us at 406-443-4020. You can also catch us on YouTube by visiting our website and clicking on the YouTube icon. Special thanks to Fire Tower Coffee House and Roasters. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions.